Are you ready?
I'm ready.
It's like I've been ready. I'm the one's running around. John Peckman Podcast, Connecticut Valley School of Music and Dance, beautiful downtown Portland, Connecticut. Come over the bridge, go through one satellites, pull a Yui, park in front of the music store with the red neon light inside. Like and subscribe, tell your friends, be on the show with me. Have your own podcast here in our beautiful studio. Dave will tell you how afterward. We're here today with organist, among other things, Kevin Barry.
Good evening, John.
Good evening. How's it going?
It's going great, man.
Yeah?
When I'm hanging with you, it's always great. Even on a gig.
Hey, you know what I'm saying? Cool. So I don't know your whole history, which is kind of why we're here. Know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
I know that you play organ because I've seen you do it. You know what I mean? That's how I know. And you have something to do with the chicken shack up there at the, I'm not entirely sure where.
Farm at Carter Hill.
Yeah, okay. The farm at Carter Hill up there in Colchester, which we'll talk about. And also you have your own recording facility.
Correct.
So do you want to work backwards? Like, tell us what you're doing now.
What I'm doing now is I'm concentrating on performance with my organ trio, which I'm trying to build up and get that rocking and rolling. And
cool.
I've done some this summer. I did a lot of playing out. I did a tour with Taz Crew
Nice.
And blues, which probably came about from my association with the farm.
Sure.
Getting the Blues Society up there. We do the monthly jams
Right.
up there. So I supplied all the back line, and I
Sure.
did the engineering for their Thursdays. And I got to meet a lot of cool people.
Yeah.
And one of those resulted in a gig for me to go out and do a little tour with Taz and play some
Nice.
good things. Boogie and Blues Fest in Thornton and New Hampshire. It was great. Things like that. Great shows.
Nice. How long did you go out?
We went out for like a month.
Nice.
So it was pretty cool.
Got around.
Yeah, I got around and didn't have to lug a lot of stuff. So
no?
that was a good one. Yeah, those were good shows.
So the big B is parked at the B3 parked at the farm, or
It was.
you didn't take that out?
No. I've got 4 rigs that
Okay.
I keep that I use when I'm with. I also work with Goff Organ Company, so
okay.
I do rentals for them. I help
Gotcha.
them with their rentals.
So you have small, medium, large, extra large, and super large.
Yeah,
Kinda.
57, 61, 63 B3s,
Wow.
and then A100, and
Wow.
then some other, that small rig I brought to the gig the other day,
Yeah.
the SK2.
What's the best year for
And,
B3? Like what's
61
okay?
to me.
Yeah. Why?
They changed the chorus, the choral, and it's a little brighter,
Okay.
but it's very reliable and has that still warm sound. But they, instead of changing like capacitors in there,
Yeah,
not
yeah.
to get too technical, but
Huh.
they didn't like recap it and brighten the whole organ up. They just took the chorus to another level.
And is that like renowned among people who know, like the 58 Les Paul or whatever? Like this is like, you gotta.
Well, I own a 58, I own a 57, 61, 63. So
you
I'm just
know.
going by
Yeah.
listening to them and
Yeah.
playing them every day. And,
Yeah. That's
just
cool.
comparing the two, what bites. But, the 57 is nice. It's smooth. If it's in a nice setting, like in a restaurant or somewhere
Yeah.
where it can, if it doesn't have to really cut,
I see.
with heavy drums or,
Wow.
not to say drummers get
Wow.
heavy.
No.
But anyway.
It's a different gig
Yeah.
when the drummer's there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, it's got a little more bite, and it's got a good mix between sweet and bite, the
Wow.
61. They're rare. You won't find them around, too.
Yeah,
so
right.
I'll tell you.
Well, I guess when you think, I don't know much. I'm going to learn as we talk, but like the Hammond B3 organ, so probably a lot of settings that you're using it in is not what it was made for necessarily. You know what I mean? Like,
Well, it was made for the church originally, but you can adopt that style. So
but I mean, rock and roll drums.
Yeah.
Stuff.
Well, Jimmy Smith put a change to that, but it still can be. You go back and adapt. Like if you're starting to do a change will come or some tune,
Yeah.
you pull out your gospel, and
Yeah,
you go back to those roots. You know, you got to do what the song needs.
Yeah.
You know, that kind of thing.
Pretty much. Yeah. That's cool. So tell us about the Chicken Shack.
Okay. Well, I started hanging around. I live in Colchester, so it's like a mile from my house. So we started hanging out there, and I got to know the owners, Mitch and Hazel, and they were showing me around the farm, and they knew I did music, and they said, "Well, what do you think about some of these areas we got? The front barn." I looked at it; it looked pretty cool, but then he took me to this back barn that had it was 1800s, and it looked like the old Shabu up floors and stuff, and it had a real nice wood stage, and the sound was really good. It was like natural reverb, but not cement-like. I said, this place is great. And then they opened the side doors, and you could put like 300 people there. So it just was great. So I talked Mitch into let me try something. So I brought a Hammond down there and brought it in, and we started doing some blues jams and stuff on our own. I brought Lonnie Gasparini and some other people.
How long ago did you start this?
That was like 4 years ago.
Okay.
So it was slow at first, and then finally I got a knock on the door saying the Blues Society needed a place. Good old COVID. It basically said, we got thrown out of these other places. Can we do it at the farm, because it's more
semi-open air?
It's open air. So we tried it. And the people fell in love with it, and they started coming. We started getting, crowds of 150.
It is cool.
People.
I did a couple of those.
Yeah, so we basically, kept it going, and now it's on autopilot. Actually, I'm not going to be doing it anymore as far as backlining and doing it.
Oh.
But the Blues Society's taking it over.
Oh, okay.
So they're going to keep going, and I'll be around to if they need something or whatever. But it's kind of on autopilot now, because I want to concentrate on my own playing, rather than rather than
so you don't have to babysit the whole thing.
No, it's
Cool.
good. They run it. They got good Scott Sebastian. Those guys.
Oh, cool.
They're pretty cool.
Yeah, that was one thing. One, I guess, cool thing about the pandemic was because I did some of those gigs too. It seemed to be, I guess some of them still continue, but it was the rise of the farm gig. You know what I mean? Like there were a couple, like all of a sudden it was like, oh, we could do this. Yeah. And it was cool. You're like outside, so did a bunch of those.
I think the brewery thing helped that too. There seems to be a lot of single guitar players. But this, it did bring the rural, the rural thing home,
Yeah, it was kind of cool. But I was like, oh yeah, this is kind of cool hanging out outside at the farm. That kind of scenario is a little different, a little less supervised. Yeah, I guess.
And I did some really memorable shows. I had Lucky Peterson play there. He was one of my mentors. So he came up and did a show for me. Mm-hmm. I had Fuzz, and I had Barry Seelan. I had some of the old timers there, and so it brought some people out there.
Yeah, that's cool. So you're not even going to show up?
Oh, I'm going to show up.
It's just not your thing.
No, I'm not going to be running the sound and the soundboard and all that sort of thing. So it's
that's cool.
But they do it at the Pine Loft, so they got their own stuff. They're
right,
cool.
right.
I'll just bring it over there.
Gotcha. So. Where I live, I could throw a rock and hit the Pine Loft. I might throw a rock and hit the Pine Loft someday. I don't even know why. Yeah, the Pine Loft is right over the hill from where I live. It's funny. Yeah. The place is cool. So, and then the studio. What about your studio?
Well, originally started in Rocky Hill. It was in my basement, and I just refinished the basement completely, and just acquired a lot of equipment. I just like a pack rat. I never sold anything, so I ended up having a lot of good pieces of equipment, like Mark I Rhodes and Wurlitzer piano. So I just people were calling me to use some of that stuff, some really good, some good engineers. Jay Newland, a guy that guy's won Grammys, but he found out I had a really good Wurlitzer that was, maintained by Vintage Vibes. So I'd get calls for that.
Yeah.
And I got some good opportunities from that studio of using equipment, and he listened to a couple of my recordings, and he liked the way I mic'd a Leslie. So he was doing Universal was doing something at Sear Sound in New York. So I got to go down there. That was the oldest operating studio in New York City.
Yeah,
Walter
right.
Sear, who was Bob Moog's partner. So this is like an opportunity to go down there and mic this Leslie, and so that was another offshoot of this studio. And we went down there. We did Lucky Peterson's. He did a 3 CD down there called Soul Sessions.
Okay.
And there was just a who's who of people on it that I got to meet. I
Yeah.
mean, I got to meet Cornell Dupree before
Nice.
he passed away. I got
Sure.
to meet Houston Person. So, I mean, just all these people down there. So that was a learning situation. So it's like one thing leads to another. And then, you know, I got to know Lucky. And I wrote a tune for Lucky. I recorded it. It's on my CD. It was like
cool.
one of the last things he ever did.
Yeah, yeah.
And I was very proud of that.
When did he pass away? Not too long ago.
2 years ago.
2 years, yeah.
Yeah, 2 years ago. Yeah, he passed away. And so, you know, he was one of my mentors. Helped me switch over to organ. You know, I was originally a piano player.
Okay.
You know,
Yeah.
you probably don't know it, but we crossed paths way back when.
Yeah, I don't, yeah.
I was in a band called Rush Hour.
Okay.
And we used to open for 8 to the Bar.
Oh, really?
Well, yeah. So, you know, we ran into you a few times.
Did I ever record in your basement back in the day? Pitchell did something. Did he ever do something there?
Pitchell did something at my house.
At your house.
At my house.
At your house.
Yeah.
I think I was there.
I don't remember that specifically. I know he was there and Nikita was there. And,
Yeah. I don't remember.
So,
Now you got me thinking. I'm trying to remember. I did something in somebody's basement in Rocky Hill. But I did a lot of things in a lot of people's basements. You know.
that's where music starts a lot of
Yeah,
times.
yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yeah,
So,
yeah. All music starts in basements somewhere. How did it all start for you way back in the beginning?
like little kid kind of thing.
Yeah.
Well, I come from Irish household, and the accordion. My grandmother played the accordion, so I guess they wanted me to play the accordion. So
Why not?
They threw it at me, and I guess I was destined to be an organ player because I had my brother pull it because I got sick of squeezing it.
Yeah.
He would pull it, and I'd play it.
Yeah,
like an
yeah,
organ.
yeah.
But anyways, I did that. I took private lessons, and I actually took some lessons at.
And this is where?
In Hartford. I lived in Hartford,
Okay.
in north end of Hartford, but I took like lessons in a store like this, basically on Park Street in Hartford.
Okay.
It was a little music shop. Then they shoved me off to Hart School of Music when I was like 12 to try to learn some more accordion, but it didn't really work out that well.
And you
think
figure
it
I'll
was-
go to Hart and learn how to squeeze it all myself.
Yeah, they didn't. I don't think they wanted a little kid in there. You know, they weren't ready for me. So it was like that put me on hiatus. Then in high school, I got a regular piano at the house, and we started practicing. And then I ended up. What really probably got me to play in bands. Up to that point, everything was at home, just practicing, doing stuff with myself, you know, and sing-alongs with the family and stuff. But I went to late Bobby Gadsden's place over at Integrity in Music, and they hooked me up with Kenny Fisher. I studied with him, and Brian Kellenbach, 2 great keyboard players. So I started studying there. And that was probably what got me into bands. I didn't know anything about bands or anything like that. So they were starting to give me tunes, the real book, you know, all that kind of thing that that you have to learn as a keyboard player. So I got some tunes out of that. And then they said, well, on Saturday, we have these jams. So they take the students on the same level, bass player, keyboard player. They didn't have a drummer at the time. So they brought a teacher drummer down there. So I'm down there, and they didn't have a guitar player either. So I'm down there with bass player kid, me, and Majeski on guitar. And Tommy Dest playing drums. So
I keep hearing his name. I don't think I know him.
Well,
but I will.
Yeah, he's a great drummer.
Yeah.
But he played barefooted, so I thought every drummer played without shoes on. But anyways, no. But anyways, I got down there and I'm playing with them, and we're doing this jam. And the tune I had learned was called Sea Journey by Chick Corea.
Okay.
You know, it's got a like do 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 do. It's got this nice. It's kind of complicated for. It was over complicated for what I knew, so I had to just concentrate on playing the head. So I learned it, but I didn't learn the whole process.
Oh boy.
So what?
Well, that's why you were there, though.
Right,
too.
but I could play the head like at an advanced age for a 14-year-old kid. So so Bobby Gatson came down and says, "Who's that kid?" He said, "Well, he's taking lessons." So he says, "Well, we're going on a tour to Wethersfield and all these schools. We want to bring him and show him as an example." So
Oh,
I
that's
says,
cool.
Okay.
Wow.
So I get
I've never
there.
been a good example before. What's that like?
So I get there, but here's the funny part: they didn't realize that I played the head. So I get at this auditorium. We got all these kids, and I'm with these great, Majeski, great guitar player,
Sure.
Tommy Dest. And they brought another, I think, a horn player too. It's like, so it's great. So I'm playing the Rhodes. I brought my Rhodes. I'm playing that Sea Journey. I'm going ahead. And they turn to me and they start playing solos. So they go solo. I'm back. Da, 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 da. I'm playing the head again.
Yeah, yeah.
I didn't know how to solo.
Right,
so,
right.
So they called up Fisher and said, "Didn't you tell me this kid doesn't know how to solo?"
Right. We just thought he played the head so
Yeah.
well. He'll know how to blow.
Yeah. So, anyways, then I had to go on a solo.
And then he said, cancel the tour.
I said,
Now you're a
"Cancel
bad
the-"
example.
I was a bad exactly. But musical journey without a few hiccups is one that's not worth it.
Yeah, totally. So you got it together. Then you said, "Yo, show me how to."
Yeah. Then I started playing with some of the guys that were going to school too, and they said, "Oh, we're going to go to the house and practice." The usual thing happens.
Yeah.
Then I ran into this kid that had a Brazilian band. He was in a Brazilian band, so I got into that, and I almost never got out because I was making, by the time I was done with that, I was making like more than Spyro Gyro was making on a gig.
Wow.
And eating like lobster. And,
Wow.
I mean, they were just doing festivals. And,
Wow.
And I only had to play like the chicken song. And, once in a while I had to play something, tarantellas and stuff like that. But
So it was like a wedding scenario?
it's Brazilian Portuguese, but they would play everything. We'd have dance music too. So you had to do top 40.
Yeah.
And stuff like
And
that.
who's the audience? There's a big population.
We'd do festivals. It'd be hundreds and hundreds of people. But the music was, it was okay.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
It wasn't advancing,
But that's a
jazz.
different path than the normal.
It was, and it kind of put me in a certain. It actually helped me with Latin rhythms because Brazilian rhythms are cool. I was playing bossas and sambas, and I knew what clave was.
Sure.
And the other side, and
Sure.
like Ivan, my friend Ivan, would tell me you're on the wrong side.
Right.
So, anyways, no, that was a good part of it, And then as I advanced a little bit, I got to bring some music into. I found out that they were very open to anything, and they had the ability to dance to anything.
Nice.
So we could bring I started to bring like Neil Larson tunes, and we did like sudden samba, and we were like dancing to it. So we kind of advanced this whole process.
Hey, that's kind of cool.
So I just like almost never got out of that band.
And you're playing Rhodes at this point?
I was playing Rhodes, but it changed. They were actually cool people because they were making so much for gigs, and they wanted to be a popular band. They bought me a Oberheim OBXA, which was $4,000.
Yeah, the blue with the
just
blue.
so I could have the strings, and they could have this orchestra that that was going on, and have these fado nights that they had with these guitaristas, and they wanted strings behind them, and I said, well, I can read a little bit.
Yeah.
But they bought me this keyboard.
So now you're the string section.
I'm the string section. So that was a long 30 years in there, and then doing rock and other things on the side. It was, it was very time consuming.
Wow. Whatever happened to that situation?
I just got into I just wanted musically.
Are they still going?
Yeah, they have their whole society.
Wow.
That they still do. Yeah, they're all over. Yeah.
That's wild.
It's an underground.
Yeah, I'm saying it's a whole thing that we don't even know about.
Yeah, it's the Primavera Society.
Wow.
That's what I would call it.
Okay. Are you going to get in trouble
No.
for saying it out loud?
No.
It's not a secret society.
No, it's not secret.
Wow.
But it's it's an ethnic society, and it's their their music, and it turned out to be quite the experience for me.
That's cool. Why you? Just the openness, just the willingness that you must have had a knack for it, for the feel, you think?
Well, I just ran into one of their main guitar players that played in there. He was like a friend of the bass player that I was playing with at Integrity. So he came over one day for a jam, and he said, "Oh, would you be interested in? And we're looking for a keyboard player. He's leaving." So that's how it started.
Did you feel like you had any particular instinct for it, or just
No.
But you just ears were wide open, so you
Yeah,
just
yeah. I just I was a sponge at that point.
Yeah, right.
I was just
right.
And then this
You didn't
guy,
have to unlearn anything. You
and
just
this
have to
kid
do it.
that played guitar is Tony Frutuoso. Is probably one of the best guitar players I ever played with. He had ears, like he could just hear a tune and he could tell the chord changes just by listening to
Yeah,
him
yeah,
and stuff.
yeah.
And the keys, he had perfect pitch, and it was like he was kind of an amazing cat.
Mm.
And so hanging with him was cool, and he could sing.
Yeah, yeah.
And he ended up being in Rush Hour, being the singer. He could sing like Boston. We were doing Boston. We
Oh,
were doing
wow.
Point of No Return. He could sing these tunes. So he was an impressive cat to be with.
Okay.
And so I kind of...
So from that came other things.
Right, that came Rush Hour. Rush Hour kind of pulled me away from them because I got busy.
Okay.
When we started, doing the clinics for Art Benson and stuff.
Yep.
We did the rhythms. We were the rhythm section for Tower of Power to come up there. And we had Rocco Prestia and...
Yep.
I forget the drummer. It wasn't
Herman Matthews.
It wasn't Garibaldi. No,
Herman
it was
Matthews.
Russ McCrimmon.
Oh, Ross McKinnon. Yep.
Yeah, Russ
yep.
McKinnon.
I remember that.
He was kind of like an orchestral
Yep.
kind of guy. So I got to play Rhodes and stuff like that with Rocco.
Yeah.
And it was.
Now you're Chester Thompson for a day, for a minute.
No, I was just trying not to
Yeah.
fall on my face.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But stay in the pocket.
Yeah, yeah. That's cool. So when does the organ enter the picture?
The organ enters the picture when I bought a C2 organ from Joey Greco, the keyboard player with the Cartels.
Yeah, sure.
So Joey sold me this.
He sat in that very chair.
Hello, Joey.
Yeah, hey.
Whoever he is.
Yeah, yeah.
So he sold me this C2. He lived in East Hartford, and we picked it up and brought it to my house, and it had all kinds of problems. But, he didn't, it was cheap.
That son of a
cheap.
bitch. Never buy anything from Joe Greco. I'm just...
No, it was cheap, but it had a lot of problems. But it actually created probably my whole career in playing organ. So I called around. I said, "Who can fix organs?" They said, "Well, you got to have Harold Goff Organ Company." So
Okay.
they do Allman Brothers. And
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So I said, "Okay." I give him a call. He comes over, and Joey had the thing. He didn't play bass pedals. He wasn't like, I think, a church organist. So he had the thing wired where the bass pedals would play on the lower manual, so he could get that sound with his hands.
Yep.
And Harold was just a traditional. He played organ like in New York when they used to do, in the theaters, live organ, and they played with their feet.
The Mighty Wurlitzer.
They played the whole. They played the whole deal.
Yeah.
And he was like.
Like you're a poser if you're playing left-hand bass. It's like,
He was like just shaking his head, looking at this organ. Who did this to that? So he basically said, we can't transport it out of your mother's basement because it's too heavy. It was a church organ. They had a lot of wood on them, just very, very heavy, almost 500 pounds. So he said, I'll come over. And he came over for a series of, times.
So Joe modded it that much at some point?
Or he had somebody mod it. I don't know if he did, but that's the way it was. It just was a mess. So it needed to be worked on. So that's why I got involved with the Goffs. So the Goffs basically, were over there fixing the thing. And then what happened?
And you wanted it to be original. You wanted pedals.
Well, he told me I didn't know anything about I was just learning.
Yeah.
So Harold said, this is not the way. He says, let me put this organ back.
So if you're going to do it.
Right. You want to learn organ, we're going to bring it back the way it should sound. And then you can work from there.
Okay.
You can either not play the pedals.
Right, because you went through the trouble of having the thing. You might as well have it be real.
Right. He just.
Did it even come with pedals?
Yeah, it came with pedals. It came with pedals, but you can also wire it to where the pedals notes would. You have to take the keyboard. Somebody did quite extensive work on it.
Yeah.
Wired all the stuff in there. So, anyways, he's working on it. And the long story short, he was a quite elderly man. He actually worked for Lawrence Hammond in Chicago. So
Whoa.
he was like very close to the engineers out there. So he was well known. And his son Al ended up taking over the company afterwards. And his grandson Dave Vumbach, who kind of runs it now, they were working on it. But one day, I called. He didn't come back. So, unfortunately, Harold passed away. So, I didn't know what to do. I just stopped. I just stopped working on the organ. I was kind of bummed, so I just left it and did my thing for a while. Then I went over to my mother's house one day to say I got to do something with this organ. So maybe I'll call the Goffs and see if they want. So I'm looking down, and there's a soldering iron with HG on it. It's Harold had left his soldering iron.
Wow.
So I said, well, I can't leave this here. So I called them up. I said, I got something for you guys. I said, I want to tell the story. So I went down there to Costello Road where they were.
Sure.
And I said, I got to give you this solder.
This was his.
This was your grandfather's and Al's father. So
Wow.
I said, Dave's grandfather.
Sure.
So I gave it to him. And they were like really like touched by it, I guess.
Yeah.
So
that's cool though.
So they basically said, you know what? Come on down. We're going to help you with the organ. So they saw I could play a little bit. They couldn't play. Their father played like crazy. So
okay.
you need to actually, if you're working on it, to play a little bit so you can tweak it.
Sure,
and stuff.
sure.
So I used to go down there, and I started hanging around down there, like going down there.
Yeah.
And playing the organ while they would work on it. I'd get calls from Dave like, hey, Dave, Kevin, you want to come down and play Greg's number one? I didn't even know what he was talking about.
Yeah.
Greg Allman's number one organ.
Yeah,
right.
right.
He played at the...
Yeah, we're tweaking it for the
so
the beacon run or whatever.
do you want to come down and work on and play it? I said, yeah. So I came down. So anyways, long story short, I started to become friends with them. This is, 28, 30 years ago.
Okay.
So I've been hanging with them since. And my father owned a bar in Hartford called The Nutshell. That's where I started meeting a lot of guys. And I decided to put a little stage there. And I said, well, I talked to Dave. I said, I'd like to, put an organ down here. So Dave says, well, Al likes you. He said, he wants to put an organ down there. So he's
going to give you Greg's number one.
He didn't do that. What he did was, it was a little bit of a businessman too.
Yeah.
He says, I'm going to put the new Portabee down there. He says, but here's the deal. Anytime I need somebody to come down there and try it, can they come down? So I talked to my dad. He said, yeah, no problem.
Sure.
So we had a nice organ down there. And then he had all these connections. So it's like...
So it becomes the spot.
So I end up with like Mike Torsone, great organist down there. So he did a gig. I met Artie Dixon. So I'm starting to meet all these guys.
Yeah.
And then walks this, longtime friend of mine now, Chris Jensen.
Yeah,
so I'm meeting all these characters,
Right.
And so it became kind of popular. And Lucky came in there, and so we were doing a lot of good things. And it was all, due to Goff. So Goff was like probably what got me into the organ. Then I was also going to the Goff shop, and these church organists started coming in.
Yeah.
So it's like, now it's a different bag. They're playing pedals, and they're just playing like crazy good.
Yeah.
So I'm saying, okay, even my organ playing at this point isn't anywhere there. So I was on a trek to learn the pedals.
Oh, okay.
So that's
that's when that
happens. Started that whole thing, and it's like the Rhodes and the piano kind of went away for a while.
Okay.
Programming synthesizers and.
So now you're like, I'm going to be a full blown.
Yeah, I'll try to do that, and so I'm kind of just working on that, and that gets busy. You start getting calls, and people say, hey, you want to play? So now. I was doing sound gigs. I did a couple of sound gigs. I did a live recording at the shop at the farm for guitar player James Oliver.
Okay.
He's a real fast picker and stuff. But I did a live CD. I did sound for him, and then I recorded a live CD off the board. I got this nice Alan Heath board. I took the tracks off it. So he liked it. Took it to his engineer. They recorded it, and it became like a hit. So basically, I was doing that, and I got gigs from him to do sound. I got other people to do sound. So I was getting busy. Yeah. So what I decided was I wanted to play. So my playing was, not going to be able to accommodate all this other stuff. So pulling that all back and going with playing right now. So
Well, that's kind of cool.
that's where I'm at, and that's it's probably why we ran into each other
Yeah.
the other day.
Yeah.
on a gig. So.
Yeah. No, Ivan used to tell me about working with you at the studio. I didn't know.
I forgot about it.
That-
We didn't mention it.
Yeah.
That's a whole nother.
Yeah. Well, then you tell me your side. But that was his thing. Like when me and Ivan were like on we worked together with Pitchell, and then after a while, and we were both teaching, and he would tell me, "Oh yeah, I'm hanging out at the studio. It's great. I'm doing this. I'm doing that." And some keyboard player, and that was you. But I didn't know. I didn't put it together.
Yeah.
So what's the Ivan story?
We did three. I did 3 CDs with him. He's relentless. He's good. And it's like it's a lot of work. It's like you got a percussion player who's really good, and he'd hum the thing, and then we'd build it up, kind of like bass and melody, and work it up, and I'd lay some tracks down, and we'd start tracking. We'd just build these tunes up.
Yeah.
And it was we're doing it on the spot, and he'd be happy, and he says that flows. It was a good experience for me to play. He's like a metronome, so it was like, and he tells you if things ain't hip. So we basically improved me. So I enjoyed it.
Oh, that's cool.
So he's just a good friend.
Oh, yeah.
He's a good friend, and if I needed him for do a track, he's on Lonnie Gasparini's CD, his latest one. He just came down and and did some stuff. So he's just we help each other. So he's just been a good friend. So.
Yeah, he can do anything.
So that's Ivan. He continues to be a friend. So
Yeah. That's when I started hearing about you. And then so how did you get into doing sound? That was just something that happened along the way, because not everybody does that either.
No. When we decided to get the concept going for the Chicken Shack, it's just Mitch, the owner. He didn't know anything about sound or music or anything like that, so I kind of had to do it. Being a keyboard player from the day, I was always probably the guy that set the sound up at the time. It's just
For
we were the
whatever
geeks.
reason.
We were the geeks.
Okay.
Geeks of the group.
Is that right? I never thought of it that way, but
That's what my girlfriend says. You guys are all geeks. I says, come
Okay.
on, man.
Huh. Well, she's a geek's girlfriend, so that's worse for her.
John Lord's not a geek.
Right.
But anyways, so I just did it. I had to do it for my own system. I had the system, so it was just bigger. But I had to learn a few things. And I ran into a few guys that knew really what they were doing, and they helped, like Johnny Larson. I mean, he's doing front of house for Xfinity. Infinity. Yeah. So, he helped me. He told me what board to get. Said, get this Allen and Heath board, and and then I just learned how to ring out feedback, and that's the main thing. You know what I mean? I learned the real. I'm not a super highly talented sound man, but I can ring out. I can no feedback and make it sound good. So,
right, and you have ears. You know what it's supposed to sound like.
And I was able to, do some recording off that board, and I know how to run a hard drive and do some basic stuff. And,
that's cool.
I guess I can edit and do stuff in the studio. I'm good at good at Pro Tools and Cubase.
And when did the studio expertise happen? That all intersects at some point.
Putting this CD out.
Yeah.
Yeah, that had to, that was for my own CD. I said, I could practice. It took me 4 years to put the CD out.
Okay.
So that was, that I learned
becoming the recording geek.
Correct.
It's a whole different thing.
Correct. Yeah. There's some people on there that I had to do remotely with, like Joel Rosenblatt.
Oh yeah, sure.
He plays drums on this. So his studio in New York, I had to send tracks. So I had to learn, I learned the whole that whole bag, and some of the ways to get things to sit in a mix and stuff. It just, you just do it over and over again, and when to say enough is enough. That's the other big thing, because it would still be
Yeah, right. You
mixed.
still be mixing it.
Right.
Now.
It's like,
Yeah.
there's got to be a point where you just,
Yeah.
so now I'm a lot faster. It's like, I did Lonnie's and I learned a few things. It's better to track as a group, like an organ trio. You take like the drummer. I had this last CD I just did was Mark Teixeira on drums.
Okay.
You got a great drummer. Got Lonnie Gasparini, a great organist. You just let them lay the thing down.
Sure.
I ran through the whole, all 12 tunes, the basis of it, and then overdub. All the problems were the overdubs, just the single guys coming in.
Yeah,
so
right, right.
So if you did all this singly to begin with, it probably would have, been a real pain in the neck. But
Yeah, right.
Because I had this bass
Yeah.
down with the organ and
Yeah,
the
right.
drums.
Right.
For an organ trio, I just started adding these people, and then I had like a couple real pros on there, like Benny Bloom from Lettuce.
Okay. Wow.
The trumpet
Far out.
player.
Yeah.
So he played on it. So that was just like, okay,
Here we go.
Just let him go.
Yeah.
So send him the tracks. He sends them back. I plug them in. It works.
Cool.
It works. And
Cool.
I had Danny Dreyer play guitar, and we did stuff like that. And Ivan played on it.
Yeah.
And
Nice.
that was it. So we just just learn by fire. Just keep doing it.
Yeah. Right.
Whatever sounds, get it to sound the way I want it to sound.
Yeah.
And hopefully the client's happy if you're working for them. But
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm not going to do too much more of that. I don't think.
No.
It's kind of a lot of work for friends or projects that I really like. I will, but I want to start playing. I'm having fun actually playing.
So that's the thing.
Yeah.
Like you were saying.
Yeah. Get the
Now.
organ trio together.
Cool.
And do it. There's some places now, like the Side Door has a organ in there now.
Yeah.
And they've started out. They had Joey D. They had a lot
Yep.
of good places, but they're going to need to fill it with,
Yeah.
startup
Well,
guys like us.
Well, start other things.
Yeah. But I'm just saying, there's room for that kind of thing.
Yeah.
I just want to see if it'll work. Get some some higher class tunes in there, and it's not just banging out some blues or something. Nothing against blues or
Yeah,
anything,
yeah.
but just see if I can bring a different organ,
Yeah. Right.
like the old Jimmy, back in the Groove Homes, Jimmy
Sure.
Smith, that kind of
Sure.
thing, and give a lot of space where everybody can hear
Yeah.
anything they play.
One would hope. Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah. I was going to say something back there a while, but I don't remember. When you started getting into the organ, who were some of the people that you first started listening to that gave you the key, like Jimmy Smith or whatever? Like what lit the fire of like, oh, okay, this is how it is. This is how it's supposed to be. Because from rock world, what do we have? We have some, but not pedals. Not like the trio.
No. The organ, actually, my first organ idol was Brian Auger. I love Brian Auger, but that's not in this tradition. But
Okay.
as far as right hand playing and blowing, he's great. So
Yeah.
that
Remind me who that is.
with the Trinity, Straight Ahead, and all those. Tunes,
Oh, okay.
Brain Damage. And,
Yeah.
he's just phenomenal.
Okay.
But he's doesn't play pedals, doesn't play left hand. He has a bass in all his
Okay.
groups and stuff. So, but he was, I just loved his sound, and so that was that. But
You're like, I'll start here.
the tradition would be, Jimmy Smith, Groove Holmes. I really like Groove Holmes. I just think he's very funky, and he's got just unbelievable timing. And then to play the pedals, I went and saw Barbara Dennerling.
Okay.
She's a German, but she plays the pedals like nobody's business. She plays them, like fast left hand, but with her feet.
Oh, wow.
She has like tiny feet, and she
Oh,
can
I see.
slam all over the pedal. So,
Huh.
so of course I tried that, but it doesn't really swing. So you have to give that up and go back to left hand bass, which that's what I finally did. I was determined to do it with the pedals, but.
But you could still play pedals.
Oh yeah, I play pedals, and I just play it on ballads and medium tunes, and you can kind of cheat with Latin. Working with Ivan actually helped me. It can kind of do like a clave. You could
Sure.
you go fast that way, but
Right, but you're not
you're
walking.
not walking.
Right. Sure.
Walking at a quick tempo is a different story.
Well, you
So,
could say a lot of those old cats, though. That's how they started.
right.
Like that's.
But if
you
you
do that
watch
for-
Jimmy taps on one note while he plays left-hand bass. He's just doing. See, the whole thing with the bass on the organ is there's just the attack of the note. They're doing a staccato attack. If you watch Jimmy's foot, it's just on one note
Really?
until it's slow, and then it's a ballad, and then he'll mimic it once in a while.
Okay.
And then he'll push it down when he needs accent on. When he wants to say something, he'll push it down. But normally, his bass is coming. His left hand. Whoops, excuse me.
That's right.
His left hand is his bass,
Oh, I never knew that.
and then his foot is tapping to give it a percussive sound. But it's feathered in there. It's not.
Oh,
fully,
wow.
It's not fully pulled out.
So it's So there's pedals and then there's left hand.
right.
They can't sound at the same time.
No, they'll kind of they have a funny sound when they're together. You know.
So he's doing like.
He's doing like just a percussive, giving you a percussive. He's playing a walking line with his
Yeah.
left hand, but he's tapping on single note. He may move it a little bit,
Yeah.
just to give a little flavor
Yeah.
change to it, but he's not actually hitting tones with those notes. It's
Oh
basic,
wow.
But he's giving. It does add to the. If you just heard the left hand bass without the tap,
Yeah.
it's not as thick.
Oh.
It gives the
Okay. So he's
impression-
doing like you just said. He's doing percussion with his
It
foot.
gives the impression of a bass player's fingers sliding off the bass, sliding
Oh, wow.
off the strings.
Oh.
So it makes the bass sound more real, but you're not really hearing. You're hearing the timbre with the hand, but you're getting that first attack with the.
Is that a thing?
Yeah, that's a well-known thing amongst
Okay.
organ players. Yeah, that play left-hand bass.
Wow.
That's called the tap method, but a lot of them will also ghost the pedals where they're going.
Yeah.
And they could tap lightly, staccato, and
Gotcha.
not basically playing notes. And when they want to say something, say they want to go up top, take their hand off their
Yeah.
left hand and go up top, and
Their foot is where it needs
their
to
foot
be.
is where it needs to be, and then come down and they can fill in. So they
Wow.
don't lose anything. It's
Oh,
kind of
wow.
It's kind of it's like playing the drums, really. It's
Yeah, right.
It's three. You get actually you get four. You got four going because you can play the pedals with 2 feet,
Sure.
and you got volume pedal. That's a big part of the sound.
Yeah,
of the
yeah.
organ, too. So
Wow.
there's
Quite a thing.
yeah. You have to simplify when you play the organ. You have to not get too complicated. Start playing with drawbars all the time because you just won't get any playing done.
Yeah, right. Yeah, just always something to do. Wow.
But yeah, it's been plenty.
And then
to keep me
switching to
busy.
Leslie whenever.
Yeah, that you get a feel for that after a while, So it's like, you gotta kind of learn to simplify in my old age. In other words, not analyze everything. Like say, okay,
Right.
this is the Jimmy Smith setting. That's easier to know. And then you could say, I don't know what that is, but I would teach you what that is.
Yeah.
That's the first 3 drawbars and the four percussion all the way up, so you get his sound.
Oh, okay.
So, but if I told you, well, the first 3 drawbars, leave the other 6 in,
Right.
hit these 4, that
Right.
sounds complicated. If I just told you the Jimmy Smith setting, and
Right.
that's all you learned, but you knew what that was.
So that's where he starts from with
yeah,
that
yeah.
sound.
So that's what you have to do. You have to
Yeah.
these things,
Sure,
and just
sure.
say, okay, that's Jimmy Smith. And Groove has his own sound.
Right.
So,
Different.
Yeah, different. So you say Groove, Jimmy,
Wow.
and it sounds like it's complicated. It looks like you're doing all
Yeah,
this
yeah,
stuff,
yeah.
but in your mind, you know what Groove is.
Right.
You know what
Sure.
Jimmy is.
Sure.
So
Sure.
it's like anything else.
Wow. That's interesting. Never
So,
thought about it.
So
How radically different are the sounds? I'm a medium. All right. So I don't know much. When I was young enough, I was in a band with an older bass player who was cool. His music taste was great. And he turned me on to Organ Grinder Swing, Jimmy Smith
Oh, yeah.
record.
Oh, yeah.
So that was like the first.
yeah.
And I'm like, okay, this is cool. So I knew Jimmy Smith. I know some Shirley Scott. I know a
Yep.
couple of things. Would I be able to tell the difference between Groove Holmes? I don't know Groove Holmes. Would I be able to? would I be able to identify the Jimmy Smith sound versus?
Yes.
I would?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
It has a little bit of a sizzle to it.
Okay.
In other words, it has no percussion and it has a high drawbar setting, so it's distinctive. And I think that was the reason Groove did it. He wanted to differentiate himself from.
Oh, wow.
A lot of these guys wanted to sound a little different than Jimmy.
Oh, wow.
Otherwise, you sound.
So
like
was
Jimmy.
he one of the first? Is he the one that kind of laid it down?
Jimmy,
I don't know.
Jimmy?
Yeah.
Yeah, Jimmy was kind of. Yeah.
See, I don't know.
There was guys before him, Bill Doggett, and you can go through a lot of guys.
Yeah.
Davis and different guys.
Yeah.
That Jimmy idolized, but they didn't do it in a. Jimmy took some really hard bebopping blues.
Get
and
closer.
he did some bebopping blues and stuff, and took some Horace Silver tunes like Sister Sadie that were popular at the time. So he got popular.
Okay.
And and then he wrote the Chicken Shack, and
Right.
Stuff like that just became popular.
Sure. So then you have to get through him. You have to get around him.
You have to get around him because he had a bunch of hits. So
Yeah.
Groove had like Misty, which was big.
Yeah, yeah.
He did Misty. If you listen to Misty, that's the Groove home sound.
Okay.
So you
I'll have to check it out.
Yeah, and then there's a couple other different sounds. The squabble and stuff, which is if you heard it, you'd know it's very very sizzly.
Huh.
So that was kind of his thing, the squabble. And
How long did it take you? When were you like, oh, hey, I'm doing this? Did you go from, I wonder if I could, to like, okay, I'm actually like, was it a long time before you felt like you were getting in the zone?
Yeah. It took me, like anything else, you got to pay the bills. So I had I was an engineer during my regular years, and I was, working that and, raising my family and paying my bills and things like that, and doing all this on the side. So it was a little overwhelming, but you're young, you can come home 3-4 in the morning, after a gig, after working all day, and get up for 7 o'clock and be at work. So when I finally retired, which, I was lucky enough to, work in a place for a long enough time to where I could get a pension and retire, and now I could concentrate, on music and kind of, it's what you have to do.
Yeah.
To take it up.
Sure.
But does it pay the bills? That's the question.
Well, yeah.
That's the age-old story, unless you're, Taylor Swift and you write some great tunes, or
right.
You hustle. You got to hustle. I
Right.
could have hustled and
Sure.
taught and done
Sure.
all kinds of stuff. But so what I decided now was, I've got this out of here. I'm just going to stay with the music somehow. It drifted a little bit with the sound and engineering and stuff like that, but now it's just music. And being able to concentrate, I was able to get some analysis of things I was doing that were making it hard for me. How I can make it easier.
Okay.
And one of them was studying with Jimmy Heath, the sax player.
Okay.
I basically got some ideas from him, and he'd basically tell you, how'd you learn how to play? I said, well, learn tunes, read music. Oh, stop. Your ears aren't any good. I go, what do you mean? He goes, if you're reading music, that's what you're doing. He says, your ears aren't any good. I got to train your ears. You got to get to the point where a melody, you're not looking at the paper. Your basically melody is in here, and your ear tells you where your notes are wrong or right, and you have to get it to that point. That's why saxophone players sound great right off the bat. They play one note at a time. Piano players think they can play the orchestra all at once, and they do chords and they do all this stuff.
I see.
And it's just a mess.
I
It can
see.
be a mess.
Yeah.
Bill Evans said, if you don't understand the problem, you're going to get lost in there and never get out.
Huh.
So, but sax players, they think about the melody, and their ears are totally trained because they hear a melody.
I see.
And they sound hip right off the bat.
Because you're not thinking about.
They're not thinking about chords or whatever. But the organ player has to think about chords and stuff. But he said you could take that out of your head. You could just, the melody, you don't think about that. That's not a note, what the note is. It's all in your ear
Yeah.
and your hands. You got to have technique. You have to.
So you just basically flip it. You flip the whole thing.
Yeah, so basically you're just thinking about the melody, which is frees everything up. Okay, I got that.
Right.
Now, what do you think about? Just the chord progressions, and what they are, the qualities of the chords and where they land. Because when the organ stops, you have to, with your right hand, you have to make a chord. So you have to know but they move slower, and they're more relaxed. So you're not sitting there with melody notes all jumbled up. That's
Right.
automatic.
Huh.
So you're sitting there. If you're doing a tune in C and you're just jamming, you're only thinking about C. So it's
Yeah,
pretty,
yeah.
It's pretty easy, but you got to think melodically. But if you have that melodic thing under control where you can hear something,
Mm-hmm.
you play it. In other words, don't play anything you don't hear.
Gotcha.
You know,
So just hear more.
you've got to hear more.
Yeah,
if you
yeah,
don't hear.
yeah.
So that's what Jimmy Heath taught me about that.
Hey,
you
that's
have-
cool.
That you have to just hear everything. You know, sing it to yourself. Play a line, then sing it. If you can't sing it, then play it back. Then sing it. Play it.
Right.
Sing it. You alternate back and forth
Right.
to where it's, and then it's swinging. And you just all you
Yeah.
got to do is just, you know, get
Yeah.
a 2 and 4 going and make sure it swings, and then hear it. And
Yeah.
Then you can worry about the chord. Now I'll put the chords under it.
Right.
Get your chords right.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
and then you do that, and then when the melody stops, you know what the chord is. You can feel it, and it's
Yep.
like it makes it really relaxing to play. A lot more for me.
Yeah.
That
yeah.
was very complicated. What's you know,
Right. Yeah. Well, you put, like you say, you have it backwards.
yeah,
You're
yeah,
thinking that it's
yeah,
a formula or a bunch of things, as opposed to, like you say, the original is it starts with your ear.
right.
Yeah.
And your ear will tell, and if it's that
Yeah, yeah,
point,
yeah.
if you hit a bad note, it's like you know it. Your ear just says
Right.
it slaps your hand.
Right. Right.
So you have to stop. Maybe you have to stop and get it.
Yeah. Yeah.
But your ear will get you, and
It's
you'll be
interesting.
fine. So
That's cool.
then you're not thinking about. I never think about like melody notes, what they are. It's
Yeah.
just basically the changes
Yep.
and the then the whole thing with the third part, the rhythm,
Yeah.
which you can tweak forever.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, the feel.
Yeah.
And,
Sure.
So that was his whole theory on it. And
Wow.
I thought it made things easier.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
But these were things I didn't think about when I was working, and I didn't concentrate on music all the time.
Right.
I wasn't thinking about it.
Well.
You know.
Yeah.
You can get to the point where you're walking around in the grocery store thinking about chord changes. You don't want to get that crazy.
Well, I'm a drummer, so I don't. I'm walking around the grocery store. I'm thinking about
I had
bananas.
a friend of mine. He says I'm walking in the aisles and I'm thinking about changes.
Yeah. 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 Well. Yeah. That'll
He
happen.
was a great piano player, Steve Donovan. He was a great player. He plays at the side door and stuff on Sundays, but he's a jazz head, Bill Evans kind of guy, and it's he's thinking about chord changes all the time.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I don't want to go that far, you know.
Yeah. Well, that's all right.
Yeah.
I mean, do you feel like you're getting there?
Yeah. What it allows you to do too is to practice away from the instrument, which is, you know, I heard all this stuff when I was growing up, and I was like, you know, you're a kid, you want to hear you want to play all these
Yeah, sure.
licks, you don't listen. It's like Chick Corea said, just imagine playing something from beginning to the end without a mistake. I go,
Yeah.
I
Right.
want to know how you do this.
Right.
lick with two
Sure.
notes."
Sure.
But now I'm thinking about it. Wow, that was pretty hip.
Yeah, but don't you think? But maybe when you're young and you're doing all that, though, what you don't realize what you're getting done is your technique, though.
Yeah, you are, but it could be mindless technique.
Right.
That's wrong. In
Right.
other words, you're learning the wrong notes.
Trying.
It's like-
Well,
you're learning
Right,
the
right.
wrong.
sure.
You know, some things become muscle memory. They
I
can be
gotcha.
wrong muscle memory.
I gotcha.
So
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
an interesting
Mm.
concept. But
Yeah.
anyways,
That's why I play drums. I don't.
Practicing without the instrument, drums are very important. Very important. I mean, without rhythm, it's the energy. Everything's just static.
Yeah. But I don't have to think about chord changes. Usually.
No,
You know. Kind of why I did it.
unless we give you a marimba.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So,
It's pretty cool.
yeah, there's a lot of stuff, but it's you just got to stay healthy and live long enough to kind of understand it.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. Something like that. Time is flying.
Okay.
I did not read. This is good though, because this
Yeah.
was a cool and meaningful conversation.
Well, when you take a 69-year-old guy and say, what would you start with?
Well, yeah, but no, I mean, I'm just saying. A lot of times, I'm like killing time, and I just realize I'm like, oh, hey, it's pretty cool. So, anything that we didn't talk about that you want to touch on briefly before I do my wrap-up questions? If
No.
not, I'll just get to them.
No.
Because the wrap-up it's going to cover everything that we didn't, because that's what I do. I'm just like, boom, boom, boom.
Yeah.
Are you ready?
I'll wrap it.
Desert Island albums. Give me 5 that you would take with you If the house were on fire, this is a new way to phrase this. If the house were on fire, what would you grab? You know, music-wise, even though our music is not necessarily in our house, but I'm just saying, what would come to mind? Like,
Bill Evans, Vanguard Sessions.
Okay.
Wizard Island by Jeff Lorber.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
You know, something funky.
Yeah.
Jimmy Smith, The Sermon, maybe.
Yep.
Yeah.
Sure.
Horace Silver, Best of.
Okay. Yeah. Why not?
Let me see. Interesting. I don't know, how many is that for?
Yeah. Don't hurt yourself.
No, that's a tough. That's a tough deal. Keyboards.
You could leave it at that.
Yeah, I mean, right now,
Right?
Yeah.
Desert island food. What could you eat every day? You're thinking too much.
Pasta, pizza,
Sure.
some kind of pasta dish.
Yeah.
I could put I could put anything in a
You
pasta.
this is
I got
all
chicken,
this is
I got
made
chicken,
up.
shrimp.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. Anything.
It's a pasta dish.
Yeah, we're making this whole
Yeah,
thing up,
yeah,
so
yeah,
it could be
yeah,
anything. Is there any particular concert or show that you recall seeing that changed your whole everything, that changed your trajectory, your whole idea?
Well, I saw a lot of good concerts. I saw Brian Auger live. That was great. I saw Tower of Power, like as far as tightness goes. That was like the...
Sure.
I said, okay, that's stupid. The horns are actually hurting my ears. You know, they're so tight. Chick Corea was great. I saw Chick just before he passed.
Oh, wow.
With Electric Band and with...
Sometimes it occurs to me, you forget, you just go, oh, Chick Corea's dead. Like you forget sometimes.
Yeah, I don't. It's like Antonio Carlos Correa is one of my...
Okay.
He's just...
Yeah.
He went in a different direction chord-wise.
Yep.
He just was going his own way. He's not doing, standard chords. He was looking. He was searching.
Yeah.
So Brand X.
Okay.
I've been seeing before John passed away.
Okay.
John, the guitar player, died. They started coming around, so
Oh,
I was
wow.
going to see them, and it was like, okay, it was kind of wild. And I saw, bluegrass bands that I liked.
I love bluegrass too.
I saw Steel Drivers.
Mm-hmm.
I like them. That's where Stapleton came from.
Mm-hmm.
So I like those guys as songwriters. I thought they were great songwriters. So, I just saw so many concerts.
Yeah.
I just go back. And,
Cool.
Yes.
Favorite movie?
I just saw In the Heat of the Night, which was very good the other day.
Sure.
So that's actually The Sting.
Oh, nice. Yeah. Yeah.
The end of The Sting was like,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Why not?
Yeah, I like that. But yeah, that's probably
Cool.
2 quick movies.
Yeah. Yeah, that might cover it. You think?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, we could get out of here. So where should we look for you?
Well, I'm putting like the trio together, so I'm working with some different people, and hopefully Nikita and the girl we work with the other night, and get some things happening.
Yeah.
And try for the side. I'm going to try like the side door. I'm going to try different places.
Yeah.
If not, just at a restaurant near you for now.
Yeah,
try,
right.
Try to get somewhere.
Yeah.
Somewhere cool.
Get something to happen. That's funny.
But
Did the owners of Carter Hill, did they were you like, oh, this is the Chicken Shack? That's what I'm going to call it. Did they understand the significance of that? Because it's kind of perfect.
No.
Yeah, because it's funny. When I
No,
first went, I'm like,
no.
this is perfect.
No.
This is a Chicken Shack.
Yeah. I used to do a few things there, like ask questions about Jimmy Smith and, who wrote and I'll buy a beer from him. There was a few people that knew, but there was a lot of people that needed the education.
Yeah, that's funny. That's funny. Yeah, it's kind of perfect. Kind of perfect.
But yeah, I'm going to give a shout out to my girl who did the design. If you ever been there, there's the chicken logo. And
Yeah.
she's a great artist, and she did the logo and
Hey.
the design on that. So it's like, I got to give her a shout out
Far out.
on that one. So
Would you like to say her name?
yeah, Lynn Brilo. Yeah, Lynn is a fantastic artist. So,
Hey, there you go.
all right, that's it, John.
Cool. You good?
This is great, man.
Of course. We got it down. You got your history down. We got it down so far.
An Irishman that can't talk.
I don't know about that. I'm pressing the button. You ready?
Okay,
Don't
ready.
get scared. Hey. John Peckman Podcast, Connecticut Valley School of Music and Dance, beautiful downtown Portland, Connecticut. Come over the bridge. Go 1 through set of lights. Go through one set of lights. Pull a Yui. Park in front of the store of the thing. It's getting worse. I thought this was going to be my year. It's getting worse. It's getting worse. All right, hey, like and subscribe. Tell your friends. Come on the show with me, please. If anybody out there can teach me how to go remote, please hit me up because I want to go global. I got big plans.
Check out the merch.
Oh, check out the merch. Yeah, we still have merch left over from our Christmas rush. You know what I mean? All right, take it easy. Thank you.
You're welcome, John.
That is all.
If you'd like to start your own podcast, give us a call at Connecticut Valley School of Music and Dance. Our professionally designed podcast space is here for all your recording needs. Rent out our studio to do interviews with up to 4 people, to record audiobooks, social media content, and all other recorded material. Our rentals include a private studio along with our professional-grade podcasting equipment, and we can customize your output to whatever your needs are. We also have green screen capabilities, which will expand to video capability if you so wish. So check us out here at convalley.net/podcast.